Hey everyone, and welcome back to the So Rude podcast. My name is Paige Ruderman, and I hope you're having a great day. On this week's episode, I'm going to talk about my personal hot take. I don't think I've heard anyone else in the music industry talk about this concept when it comes to the impact of music and today's landscape and why it has been demonetized and devalued as a commodity instead of an art form the way it was originated. Yeah, I know it's a hot take, trust me. And it boils down to the fact that music no longer uses our five senses. So you might be saying, Paige, music never used five senses. We listen to music. And that's where I want to dive into the conversation today. And let me help set the scene for how this realization came to be in my mind. Recently, I was watching a video from Business Insider. I love that YouTube channel. I think they talk about a lot of really interesting things. And it was a video about ultra processed foods and how one of the reason these foods are so highly addicting and encourage people to eat more and more and more of them is because the consumption of the food is a multi-phase experience. There are beginning tastes, the experience of crunching or biting into a food, and then the food goes through a process of chemical reactions that create secondary or even third phase eating experiences to the brain, which then, when comparing these ultra processed foods with normal or organic or single ingredient foods, they're not as enjoyable or exciting, and they almost appear bland to the brain. Because part of the reason the food is so enjoyable to eat is because it's utilizing parts of the brain and multiple senses to engage the whole body during the food consumption process. And I'd watched that video and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is kind of like mind-blowing. I didn't know this about food. I've heard the dialogue around ultra processed foods, but hearing it broken down into that way where it's basically saying that your brain is being trained to enjoy these heightened experiences so that way when it consumes these changed foods, yeah, it's going to feel kind of like boring. Have you ever watched a really old movie that doesn't have the CGI or some of the graphics capabilities that it had today? Unless you enjoyed it when you were younger and it's kind of a nostalgic thing, you don't enjoy it as much in today's world when you compare it with modern movies. So that made me think about music and how we have lost the additional senses when it comes to digesting music. And that is why people feel less and less engaged with spending money on music and why people seem to move on so quickly because there isn't time to engage all of the senses and have the joy associated with music anymore due to the way that we consume it. Also, if you've ever written with me in the room or worked with me or had any kind of like conversation with me, you probably know that I love taking two seemingly unrelated concepts and connecting them. So when I had this realization of like, okay, we see this happening in the food environment. Oh my goodness, this definitely is connecting with the music. So I love getting to pair these two things and help explain my thoughts. So going back to music, I was thinking about it today about just how hard it is as a songwriter to get a cut, which is a song that gets released by an artist, and how so many stars need to align. You need to have a relationship with an artist to either write a song with them or have written a song that you think would connect with them so much that you feel compelled to share it with them. Hopefully, that song connects with the artist. Then they need to be in a recording season of their journey to actually go and get it recorded. And it's not just kind of like sitting by the wayside until that time comes. Hopefully, by the time that they're recording again, they remember that song and haven't written other songs in between. They need to have the money to get it recorded. And then they need to have the time and space in their life to actually put behind releasing the song. I know for me as a songwriter, there are so many songs, I'm going to call them in the can. They're recorded, they're ready to go, but they haven't come out for a variety of reasons. Maybe the person already has a timeline set up of the songs that they're going to release, and, that one is in the lineup in a later spot. Or people have had life experiences happen that just like they're not in the right frame of mind or they don't really have the time to put the energy behind it. And so imagine getting through all of those steps to get the song even recorded and then it doesn't even come out yet. And then if you're lucky enough to get through all of those steps and have the song come out, that's where we get to today. And that's with the content piece and actually marketing and advertising the song. So I've had this conversation with so many artists and friends. They hate the social media game. They're like, I don't have the energy for it. I don't enjoy it. It doesn't make me happy. It's not fun for me. And like, trust me, I get it. It's an art form in itself. But it struck me today when I was thinking about this video about food and I'm thinking about music and I'm thinking about how music is a strictly auditory process. You listen to it. That is one sense. You are listening with your ears and you are interpreting that information in the brain and then processing it and enjoying it, hopefully. But because you listen with your ears and the music stays in an audio format, that is the only sense when it comes to enjoying your art. The only sense out of five. And that is why content is so important because content becomes the visual format for someone to connect with your art, what they see. It's how you can create another part of their world when it comes to your music. And you might be asking, like, why are senses even important? Because senses are how we as humans perceive the world around us and make sense of things. Not only do they help us survive and accomplish everyday tasks like finding shelter, eating to live, yada, yada, but they also are essential for enjoying things and bringing joy to life. Our senses are so closely connected to our emotions and our memories. So they have a drastic impact on how we feel and how we remember different parts of our lives. They affect what we like and what we dislike. So if you think about it, you're taking a strictly auditory process. You're taking strictly something you listen to that only touches one sense, and you're saying, please love this the way that you used to. And I'm going to argue that music no longer touches the five senses and that it did in the past. We're already aware that hearing is used to consume music. We've talked about that. That process has not changed. But you know what has changed? The entire environment when it comes to collecting music. Let's talk about touch. We used to hold on to a physical copy of music, whether it was a CD, a cassette, whatever. Once we purchased that item, it was ours. I remember walking up and down FYE and other music stores in my local mall to scan the new CDs and flipping through cassettes and like pushing apart posters to check out the new posters on the wall. There was something so satisfying about flipping through CDs to find what I'm looking for. It's almost like a treasure hunt. And I mean, if we go back to what people say about how humans have evolved, we all are mammals and mammals like to hunt, right? So now you're kind of getting into these biological senses that rule how we live our lives. So when you're physically touching something and you're pushing open the door to the store and you're walking up and down the aisles and like you have like a whole body reaction to just being there in the store. And don't even get me started about how we as a society have swapped from ownership to perpetually in subscriptions. We don't own anything anymore. We don't own the books that we read. We don't own the music that we listen to. We don't own the movies that we watch or the TV shows that we like to binge. We don't own anything. All we do is borrow it at a cost that's never paid off because if you want continued access to these things, you need to continue to pay a subscription versus I don't know about you, but there's something about people saying, put your money where your mouth is. When you spend money on something, you have an invested interest in that item. So when you were buying that CD and you were so excited to have it in the car with you or to keep it in your bag when you were going on road trips and you wanted to listen to music, you owned it. It was like you had like a connection to that item. And heck, even pictures are like this because my iCloud storage is constantly getting full, which means I can't take more pictures because there's no room for it. Wild. I also think part of this lack of ownership, this lack of investment, this lack of involvement is leading some of this resurgence of like the 70s, 80s, 90s era of vinyls and cassettes and digital cameras and home phones. We see all of this coming back. I think because people miss having that tangible relationship with their things. And like we're hunters and gatherers. We like to gather things that we own and like look at our pot because looking at the pot means we would be able to survive. Like there are so many like behavioral components to music. We talked about touch, but what about taste? Sometimes the experience of purchasing music or going to get new music, it was extended to the environment and kind of what was happening all around you. I remember as a kid going with my mom to the store or later on with my friends, we would walk around the store. We might pick up iced coffees or more likely energy drinks at that age. But the whole process to purchasing music was an experience. Maybe you went out to lunch first. Maybe you guys went out to ice cream. Maybe you were at summer camp with your friends and you're eating PB&J, listening to the new Britney Spears CD. That could just be me, but like I don't think I'm the only one. But yeah, there was a whole connection to that part of it. Or even thinking about going to concerts and you're tasting, maybe you're someone that always gets like fries when you go to a concert, or you always get a specific type of drink, or you always stop at the same convenience store on your way, right? These are just kind of like habitual things that you do when you quote unquote consume music. And smell, if we're going to malls or we're going to the store, when you walk into a bookstore, you smell books. When you walk into a music store, there is a scent involved with music stores. It's kind of musty and the like, but you're making that connection between that scent and that experience. And if you enjoyed it, it's going to bring back positive experiences. I think about even just the weather. If it was rainy out, there was a scent of kind of like water in the air, or if it was fall or winter and I'm bundled up versus summer and I was wearing sunscreen, like all of these smells are connected to enjoying the music because it was an experience. It wasn't just scrolling on your phone and like tapping a button. And we don't even have the tangible reaction of pressing a button and feeling the button like give anymore. It's strictly a screen. There's not even a tactile component to it at all. And so I'm thinking about music today and I'm thinking about how much harder it is for artists to connect with their fans. And I'm like, I can see it. I can see why it's so hard. You're not connecting with them in any way, shape, or form besides the audio format. And getting someone to press play on someone they don't know is really hard. And if you're going to sit there and reject the visual components of music, you are rejecting the only other sense that you could possibly be getting people to utilize to consume and enjoy your music in a digital online format. There is no other way to connect with them. They're not going to smell the place that you wrote the song in. They're not going to touch the notebook that you wrote the lyrics on. Like nothing. There's no other sense to enjoy. So I do think that's why content has connected so highly for artists in this streaming era, because it is the only other way to engage an audience with another sense. And the people that have kind of hopped on board and joined the bandwagon on that have seen it be prosperous for them because they've recognized, okay, I'm connecting with people in a new way. If I was going to go out on a limb and say, I think I'm onto something here, I think part of the reason that music has been demonetized and devalued and is seen as a commodity is because one you're not even like buying it anymore. Everything's essentially free. You're paying like at most what, $11 a month to stream every song in the entire universe. Come on. Like come on. You used to spend like $17 on an album and you could like own it, and it would sit there and it'd be on your shelf. And in a way, it was also a visual cue. Like if you were getting in your car and you saw the CD sitting there, you'd pop it in the radio, right? Or you'd pop it in the CD player. You don't even get the visual cues anymore. You're strictly like one MP3 file in a mix of all these other ones. So, what does this mean for independent artists? I think that if I'm onto something and that this is correct and that we're missing out on the other senses of music, That allows artists to get really creative with the way that they can repurpose those senses and find a way to fill them for their fans. So, what does this mean? Maybe if you're going to play a show, you have a specific scent in the room. I know hotels do this. They have like specific smells associated with their brand. So that way, every time you walk into a Hilton or every time you walk into a Marriott, you know it's theirs because it kind of smells like the same. Maybe it's creating a physical token for going to see you live as an artist. Like creating a fake ticket, right? I work in live music and entertainment right now. And like, you don't know how many times I hear from people, I miss the paper tickets. It's so confused. One, it's just the technological challenge of using the phone and hopefully your Wi Fi is working. Did you already download it to your phone? Like that whole mess of things. But people miss having something tangible to remember it by. I think that's why people still to this day get so excited if they can capture the set list from a band. It's like the only tangible thing that they have besides merchandise. And that's again why people spend money on merchandise. It's a reason to own a little piece of the experience. Every time they wear that shirt, they're reminded of the concert that they went to. So, let's say you're a more junior artist and you don't have either the money or the ability to make merchandise. Can you create a physical token copy of a ticket that is like with your image on it and the date and the location? I remember I went to the Taylor Swift Eras tour with my two friends and I bought on Etsy. This creator had made stickers that looked like fake tickets. And it said like the Eras Tour, and mine said like May 6th, Nissan Stadium 2023, because that's when I went. And it was just so cool. And I was so excited to give them to my friends because it's like a physical thing to remember it by. Can you create a physical, tangible token so that people can have that as part of their collection? And or maybe you want to do both, or maybe you want to stick with just the digital. Can you create a digital copy of it? When I went to see Megan Trainor and Charlie Puth, who were two artists that I bought tickets to go see because I work in entertainment, I'm only going to buy a ticket if I really want to see someone. Chances are I'm going to see them for free or get paid to see them anyways. So, for me to buy a ticket, I have to be really interested and invested in you. Both of them had digital token tickets that I can keep in my files. Just a little thank you, a little something extra for your fans. And honestly, the cheapest, easiest way to go about this is to make videos and content. So, like, let me circle back to this point. Don't underestimate the power of the visual sense, and don't underestimate the power of creating your brand and connecting with people. They're getting to know you as a person, they're visually connecting with the music to then encourage them to go listen to it audibly. So again, I have heard nobody else in this space talk about the lack of senses in music today. Do I think that is the one and only thing driving the lack of financial investment? No. I think the streaming era has changed things. I think we as a community have gotten familiarized with not spending money on music in the same way. But I go back to saying when people spend money on things, they value it more. So, how can you start to find ways to bring more value to your songs? Can you do that by utilizing an underused sense? I don't know. And if you have any ideas, let me know. I would love to hear about how artists are bringing their music to life and touching in these other senses, or a way that they've created a fan experience that is enjoyable and brings joy and engages their audience. Just remember, the brain is a powerful thing, and any opportunity to make it think and work and connect is only going to make those neurons stronger and help people remember you more. So if you enjoyed this episode, I have so many people that reach out to me privately with the most beautiful messages and voice notes and the like, saying how much they enjoy the show. It makes me so happy. But it would be even greater if you could share those comments and those feedbacks as ratings and reviews on whatever platform you're listening to the show on. It helps other people who are interested in listening to the show or potentially checking it out. It might push them over the ledge and say, you know what? Enough people said they really enjoyed this. I'm going to give the show a listen. They can become another fan and part of our little crew. So please rate and review the show. It would mean the world to me. And if you're not already, you can connect with me on Instagram and TikTok at sorude.podcast. You can also find the YouTube channel, So Rude Podcast. We're posting visual, again, one of the senses, a video with every episode now. I try to include clips on all the social media platforms. So make sure to check those out. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I cannot wait to chat with you again soon. Bye now.